The prehistoric park was finally finished. In the past couple of months, a whole bunch of new dinosaurs and other creatures have been added to be on full display to the visitors. Through recent DNA splicing, some real fan favorites and never-before-seen creations were thrown into the spotlight, and the park was about to officially open its doors to all of the people in the world. Up until this point, most visitors were able to attend, but they still had to go through a certain process to earn tickets, and from this time onward, they could just reserve their entry in advance. Obviously, the waiting times until you got a valid ticket were very long, and some people needed to book months in advance to secure a good spot. But there was one final surprise left to the public, even though this had been the talk of the talk on the work floor for a longer time. With the park now officially going to fully open and be considered finished, the initial holding cell would no longer be necessary. Therefore, the space that this required could be turned into a separate dinosaur zone, and thus, one more dinosaur could actually be added. And everyone agreed that this should obviously be the case. For then, the actual final dinosaur in the park would be the Tarbosaurus. The interesting thing about this predator and magnificent creature is that there's a lot of divisiveness on if this dinosaur is actually its own species or merely an Asian representative of the Tyrannosaur, much like we have many animals in common nowadays in different continents, yet they differ slightly. To make the Tarbosaurus a reality through DNA splicing, they used actual T-Rex DNA, so this creation would not wrap up this ever-ongoing discussion. But the Tarbosaurus was magnificent and almost looked like a leaner version of the T-Rex. It was considered an apex predator back in its time and would roam across the plains and riverbeds where its prey would often come to drink. In that sense, they can really be seen as the lions amongst the dinosaurs, since that behavior has not changed all those millions of years later. For this final zone, 2 Tarbosaurus were brought in, to of course stick to the couple setting with the larger carnivores. The unique thing this time was that the dinosaurs would not need to be airlifted with a helicopter, but instead the zone would be built around them. The fence foundation had been laid and vegetation was brought over to be planted, as well as a drinking spot and eating zone would be set. Then, when everything was in place, the Tarbosaurus couple was free to roam in their new, larger home, and they loved it. They actually stuck with each other a lot, showing a lot of devotion to one another, just as has been seen with some T-Rex couples that stick together even after they had offspring. And so these final additions were welcomed by the entire community, and even though they might indeed be a bit similar to that of a T-Rex, they were still distinct enough to where they could hold their own. They would also be often the first predator that the visitors would see, so they had earned their place amongst the greats. And then the park was truly finished, and it had sprawled its arms over the entire plain with dozens of different species, of which some were even non-dinosaurs. The initial launch for this park started with the gene splicing and mixing of the hybrids to create new dinosaurs never before seen, including the Dimetrodon, the Concavenator, or the Diabloceratops. But of course the park started small with its creation of the Dimetrodon, which was the first step of many to come afterward. The Dimetrodon still received so much love by the visitors since that is where it began with the park. Some of the really old school dinosaurs and creatures like the Iguanodon pen that held an Oviraptor for the first time was instantly loved as well. The next major step was obviously the addition of animals like the mammoths and the woolly rhinos, thereby furthering the horizon even more on the possibilities that could be done with a park like this. Scientists became ever so more bold with their experiments, which of course eventually led up to the addition of creatures that came straight out of the movies like Disney's Dinosaur or Peter Jackson's King Kong. The dinosaurs seen from Skull Island were a big hit, but some felt that the scientists went a bit too far with what they wanted to create a fantasy creature like Godzilla. Those who wanted to stick more to the facts broke barrier after barrier, as new breakthroughs in splicing technology led to more newly added dinosaurs than ever before, and at its current state, we were merely in its infant years. There were so many customly created new dinosaurs now on the potential market that they could not fit in a park with this architecture. Another wide sprawling reservation might be something to consider when having this many creatures in one spot. For now at least, this prehistoric zoo would flourish and enjoy its wondrous time as people from all over the world, both young and old, gather to enjoy their passion for dinosaurs, history, and Mother Nature itself. The sky's the limit with what would be next, but for now, this park's final chapter had been written. Hey everybody, and thank you so much for watching my latest season in the Jurassic World Evolution cinematic series. I know that there was a long time between season 4 and this new season, so I apologize for that, but with the newly added modded dinosaurs, I think the sky's the limit, and I'm very excited for what new seasons I will create in the future. Now in this part of the video, I will talk a little bit about what I thought about the series, some highlights, some things that could have been better, and my future plans. So this is actually going off script, but this actually gives me the chance to talk to you guys directly instead, of just reading out the script I write in each episode. While this is happening, we will see beautiful imagery from the actual parks. This is the park tour. It's not going to be a park tour like I did with the Safari Park in Season 3, where you actually go through the park in real time. Simply the architecture in the sense that there are all these narrow paths makes it really difficult to actually showcase it that way. But we will have, eventually I will do another Safari Park, and then we will have a proper tour like that. So what did I think about the series? So first of all, this was by far the longest season in all of my Jurassic World Evolution series. I believe that the previous seasons all were closer to 6, 7, 8, maybe a few more episodes, and that was about it. And I think this one is over 26 episodes long, meaning that when we eventually also get, the entire season as one video, that's going to be one heck of a long video. But I was very excited about this, and I'm very happy with how this turned out. I try with each season, I try to have a different approach of what we're going to do, and of course in season 1 I already made a zoo, so I knew that since we were going to do that in this season again, I did want to go with a different approach. Now I did that in two things. One, I did that in efficiency with how I set up the park. There's very little room in terms of, shops, stores, facilities for guests. It's all about creating as much space and as many different zones for the dinosaurs to add as many as I could. I do believe that has happened, but of course, and we will talk a little bit about the modded dinosaurs, but so many have been added that, I couldn't get nearly half of what they what has been added on the market right now. But the modded dinosaur was actually the initial output or initial reason why I started this. I remember very well when on the Nexus mod page, several new modded dinosaurs or creatures were added, and creatures like the Oviraptor, the Dimetrodon, and when I saw that there were maybe, 5, 6, 7 plus modded creatures on there, I realized that a season could be made around this, and it started in the first episode where we added, of course, the Dimetrodon, and I think in the second episode we added the Oviraptor. Shortly after that, of course, the mammoth, the woolly rhinos, and from there on out, more and more modded dinosaurs were added. Now, the issue in the beginning was that a lot of these modded creatures replaced dinosaurs that were currently in the game. For example, the Tarbosaurus. The Tarbosaurus changed. I believe the Tarbosaurus was replaced by the woolly rhino. The Dinosaurs, for example, replaced the Allosaurus. So many of the vanilla dinosaurs I suddenly could not have in the park again. Because of that. Now, more recently, they've actually found a way to make all of these new modded creatures new species, meaning they will not replace the dinosaurs, and instead you can have the old vanilla dinosaurs plus all these new modded creatures. But this has only been a thing maybe in the last 2 or 3 months or so, so way back when the season started, this was not a thing yet, so for probably more than half I've had a lot of modded creatures that replaced the vanilla dinosaurs. Obviously, from this point onward, in upcoming series, when I add custom dinosaurs, I will probably only stick to the new species. Many of the old modded dinosaurs that replaced vanilla creatures have been updated to be new species, but there's a few still that will replace it, and I probably won't use them unless they get updated in the future. But I think it's absolutely wonderful what is happening in the modded community. I know that they were pretty strict in the beginning, and it was kind of a hassle to get these mods to work, and it mostly was just, you know, skins for the dinosaurs. But some of the creatures that have been added are absolutely magnificent and look, you know, just as good as the vanilla units, and some even more majestic and magnificent. So nothing but praise for what the modded community is doing there. And you know, I believe that currently there are over 200 unique species and creatures that have been added. So again, we can go on with these new seasons for a long while. Also, one thing, because I also wanted to talk about some things that, for example, didn't work in the series. The issue that, for example, came with replacing some of the vanilla dinosaurs is that sometimes, for example, you get a crash or you add a creature and some of the files get a little bit mixed up, or like, you know, you lose your backup file or whatever. And so what has happened before is, for example, that some of the modded creature files get modified, and throughout the series I have lost some of those custom creatures. I think, for example, the custom baryonyx was replaced by something else, and I forgot what. But basically, through editing, I kind of tried to showcase that this was not happening. But if you look closely, you can actually find a few shots where all of a sudden the vanilla types of dinosaurs are in these zones where I put a modded dinosaur in the beginning. But again, from this point onward, since I will only use new species, that should not happen again. And I was very happy with the response on the modded creatures. Again, I think it's absolutely awesome. It gives us an opportunity to both highlight what the community is doing, and also adding way more creatures that, you know, there's a sense of mystery, there's a sense of wanting to see what's new. Because by now, we've seen pretty much all the vanilla type of content out there, and it's not really being updated, so it's up to the community to carry this game onward. And like I said, some of the highlights are like adding creatures that are non-dinosaurs. You know, having mammals in the park was something that I never thought would be possible in this Jurassic World game. And not to mention that the creatures are actually very convincing. That's the other thing too, is that they were very convincing, which I absolutely loved. One might also be a little bit surprised. I've had multiple comments saying that they predicted that there would be another outbreak. This, of course, happened in Season 1. This happened in Season 2. And though this did not happen at large in Season 3, there were a few episodes where there was like a tiny breakout, or there was an incident involving some human deaths. And I did not add that this time. And it's just because people predicted it, I thought it was a little bit cliche, and I really wanted to hold the focus this time on just the park, what new creatures have been added, what's their backstory, what's happening, and I feel like that was very cool. And again, there will be more seasons, so I'm sure that in future seasons things will go wrong again, and people will get eaten for those who want to see that. In general, people were always very excited to see new creatures, even also the prehistoric mammals. And the only time where there was a little bit of controversy, or people did not really see eye to eye in the comments, was with the addition of Godzilla. The way that came to be was the multiple people had asked and recommended the Godzilla mod, so I knew about this. But I also knew that up until that point, even though we had added some fantasy creatures, like for example the V-Rex or like the dinosaurs from Skull Island, in a sense they were still portrayed as realistic-ish looking dinosaurs. And Godzilla, of course, was a step, you know, in a different direction, where it was way more of a fantasy creature. And I knew that there would also be people that didn't like that. So that is why I did the voting poll back in the day on who wanted to see Godzilla in the park or not. Now, eventually, the people who did want to see Godzilla in the park had a vast majority. So even though I still got some comments saying like, they didn't really like that Godzilla got added, overall, people did actually really like it. And I personally thought that the look of the mod was actually very, very, very cool and very convincing. Some people kind of found it annoying that it was the Godzilla from the 1998 movie. There actually is another mod that has the more Japanese style, but again, in terms of looks, the Japanese one is not that convincing and looks, I don't know, a little bit, I don't know, it looks unfinished. So that's why I went with this version instead of the Japanese one. Then, before we talk a little bit about the future, let's talk a little bit about my personal favorites. One of them, obviously, was the Carnotaur from the movie Disney's Dinosaur. I chose that one myself to be added. I thought it was absolutely amazing. What I really liked, I loved some of the vanilla dinosaurs that got an upgrade that looked really, like, I don't know, exotic and tropical, like the Ceratosaurus, the Styracosaurus, all these, like, wild colors and huge horns, making them look like they belonged in the Amazon or something. It was really magnificent to see what the modded community, or modding community, could do with the vanilla dinosaurs. It was really, really cool to see that. As I said, having the mammals being added was absolutely awesome, and it gave me a great idea for an upcoming season. But overall, I'm just really, really happy with how this turned out. You know, as I said, this was the longest season yet, and I started to give more background information and more story behind each dinosaurs, or behind each creature that was added, because I also started to notice that each episode kind of became similar to where I talked about, like, the sedating process and the helicopter transport process and blah, blah, blah. And I thought it would be cool to add a little bit more, you know, a little bit more flair, a little bit more flavor to many of these dinosaurs. So I combined some facts with a little bit of fiction and, you know, made some cool backstories there. So that was that. Now, before we talk about what the future season will hold, of course, I want to talk a little bit about the seasons that will be uploaded next. So I did talk about this in my update video that I did recently on the channel. But starting from next week, I will be uploading the entire video of Season 2, then in the week after Season 3, and then in the week after that, Season 4, which Season 4 has never been uploaded in its entirety, but I've managed to fix that. But one of the reasons why this is, and if you've recently watched Season 2 or Season 3, like the entire video, you will notice in the comments that people have been complaining about that there's no sound. The reason for this is because I used music that I got from a channel where it stated that this was copyright free and this was no issue. But I learned a hard lesson there, that even if people write stuff like that, it's not on black and white. So after a few years, I guess they changed their mind and they gave some copyright claims. So YouTube muted it. So, you know, that I could still get revenue from the video. But of course, that did make it to where the viewing experience, of course, became less. So because of that, I managed to tweak the audio, add some other music that would not be an issue, and will re-upload Season 2, 3, and 4. Well, actually, 4 has never been uploaded, but I will re-upload Season 2 and 3 in the next 2 weeks with fixed audio. So all of the dialogue or narration will still be in there. So if you've never actually seen the full version, then I will highly recommend you to check those videos out again, because they are very, very cool. I love Seasons 2 and 3. They're very different from the first, more vanilla type one. And I do some pretty creative stuff with the ones, especially in Season 3, where people have been saying comments why I don't use the Safari mode that has been added in the game. But what people don't realize is that when I made that season, they didn't have the Safari truck or the Safari tour thing yet. So the fact that I made a Safari park with that game, even though it didn't have Safari things in it, I thought was pretty clever. But so what are my future plans? First of all, the next season will first be uploaded to the Dino Tales channel. The Dino Tales channel will be in the description down below. I highly recommend you to please go check that out and subscribe to that channel. I will do dinosaur Let's Plays, dinosaur cinematics, narrative content. Of course, I have a lot of dinosaur games also upcoming, so that will be also there. And eventually, then after that, some of the summaries will be uploaded to the Konoha channel then as well. I have several ideas for what I want to do. For example, I do also want to make another safari park now with the proper safari tools that we got from the game with the update. I of course also want to explore more of the modded dinosaurs that have been added, but what I am going to do, I think, for the next season will be a lot shorter again. It might be about 5, 6, 7 episodes, but I want to try and make a sort of like prehistoric zoo only with non-dinosaurs. Now, hold on before you think, oh, but the reason why I'm watching these series is because of the dinosaurs. But hold on, again, it's not going to be a super long season, and they've added some really cool creatures that were not even featured in this season. Like, they have the giant centipede, like the prehistoric centipede thing that you might know if you've played Ark Survival Evolved. They have like the big, sorry, I don't, on the top of my name, I don't know all the names for all the mammals and stuff, but they have like the giant monkey or the giant ape that looks like a giant orangutan. They have the dodo bird that I didn't add in this thing, and many more. They recently added like a prehistoric like cheetah looking thing. I don't think it's a saber tooth, but again, many mammals and other non-dinosaurs have been added, and so I think it would be very cool to make a zoo only with these prehistoric mammals and non-dinosaurs to see what's out there and how far we can go. I've written down the non-dinosaur creatures that I saw on the Nexus mod, and I think I came around, I don't know, 14 or 15 different creatures, so that's definitely enough content, enough creatures for a few episodes here and there. And I think it would also be cool. I know that people have been asked for a zone where I will mix, for example, the mammoths and the woolly rhinos, so we can also actually do that. So that's actually going to be very cool. So yeah, that's pretty much about it, and that's what I have planned for the future. Thank you so much for listening to me rambling on about this, but again, this is the chance that I get to talk to you guys directly, to share my thoughts on this current season, on seasons that we will have in the future, and I hope that you guys will stick with me and will also join me on all these wacky new adventures that we will have in upcoming series with Jurassic World Evolution. Anyway guys, thanks so much for watching and all the support, and I will see you guys next time.